Tuesday morning. Welcome into the Auburn Blitz podcast. Brett and Randy. 102-69 last night in Neville Arena as the Auburn Tigers continue to roll on and steamrolled UNA, a good UNA team, I might add. I thought they played extremely well in the first half and challenged this Auburn team. But Janai Broome, Randy, we'll dive into the specifics. Had a great night. Again, you don't have to have one particular guy every single night win it for you. It can be a range. But the one thing that stood out to me is this has been Janai Broome since the start of the season. He's been the constant on this team. And, that's what everybody expected. I think he's one of the best players in the country. I think he'll be up for National Player of the Year and has a chance to win it, depending on how good this team finishes and what they do. But Auburn with a big win. Now they'll turn their focus to travel to Maui, get ready for the Maui Invitational, and play a great Iowa State team right out of the gate.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I know that a lot of Auburn fans are planning on making the trip and looking forward to it and have for quite some time. My son put a Duke T-shirt on this morning that I think one of my nephews passed down the line, and I said, Cooper Flag. I said, are you a Cooper Flag fan? He says he has been for years. That's the difference, Brett. With these kids, watching, Ja'Kai Howard. The first time we went and watched Ja'Kai, my son's known Ja'Kai for 4 or 5 years because I think he played on one of Bronny's travel teams. And so he's got, some memories of him when he was 15, 16 years old playing and seeing some of these highlight reel plays. And we've been hearing Cooper Flag's name for how long? It feels like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun. I like to see how we match up with some of the best talent in the country. I looked down last night. I don't know the exact minute, but Janai was on the bench. There's probably 14, 13 minutes left in the first half. He was getting his break. He comes back in at about the 10-minute mark, Brett, and he goes for 15 points in the next 3 minutes.
He does.
And you could sense that the talk on the bench was, look, you've got the best player in the country potentially on your team, and you're not going through him. And he goes back out on the court, and you can see him talking to the coaches, Stephen Pearl being one on the sideline, like, look, feed me the ball, I'll win us this thing. And, I think that's the part of our basketball season this year that we'll see if we've gotten a little better than we have in the past, because too often in the past, even when we're not shooting the three ball well, we just keep, shooting it up, man. We just keep trying to shoot our way out of a bad shooting performance. We don't have to do that. We do have the best post player in the country right now. And if he gets to his right shoulder and that left hand up, it's a bucket. And we've got to take more advantage of that as we get into these bigger games. I think we will, Brett, but I do think it's a topic to discuss is how quickly will we realize that maybe this is not our night shooting the basketball, and let's go to the big guys. Because it's not just Janai. Look the way Chaney's playing around the rim. Dylan Cardwell last night, I think he ended up with 8 or 10 points. He had some nice post moves in the paint. The couple that I was sitting beside, he made one of those spin moves and got to his right hand. And it was right there at the bucket. And they were saying, well, it's not only Janai. Look at Dylan. Look what he can do down in the post. So that's our strength. I hope we lean on it as the season moves on.
Yeah, I'll kind of start with Dylan Cardwell, since you said that he ended up with 12 last night. And one of the things that you look at with him is, man, he's gotten so much better every year. You remember his role has increased. He's gotten better. He's enhanced his skill. And that's to be said by a lot of these guys. And then you look at Janai Broome, like you said, he plays at a level now that is so, when good players are out there doing their thing, it looks like it's kind of in slow motion. It doesn't look like they're giving a lot of effort. And that's what he looks like right now. And he had 30 points last night. The thing that stood out to me is the team, the way they shot the basketball overall. Now, again, when you're getting buckets that close, in that close range within 5 feet, you're gonna have a high percentage. But they shot the ball at 60, almost 62% last night, but 44% from behind the arc. What didn't seem like a really good shooting night ended up being a 12 for 27 night from behind the arc. And there's that magic number for me, the 10 number. Anytime you get to 10 3-pointers, it really makes you hard to beat, especially with this team. But you go back and you look at Cardinal with 12. We said Broome had 30. Baker Mazar had 12, and he started off the game with 2 threes. Denver Jones had 13. Miles Kelly had 12. And Chaney Johnson only shot the ball 6 times, but he was 4 of 6, had 8 points. That's the thing. A little concerning about our guards. If you want to pull out something to work on, JP McGee still can't score. It's a struggle. He only shot it 3 times, but only had 3 points, and he's not going to the free throw line either. Tahad Pettiford struggled last night, 2 of 8 shooting from the field, only had 7 points. So, but again, it's not the end of the world, man. If they don't have to, that your guards aren't having to score 12, 15 points apiece because you got 5, 6 other guys that were in double figures last night.
I'll tell you my takeaway, and I was telling my son sitting beside me to watch last night is Tahad Pettiford defend, Brett. His own ball defense is outstanding. His physicality, his ability to get you to your weak hand, I think his basketball IQ's through the roof. I love watching him play defense, and maybe that's going to be a difference this year because if you match up with bigger guards and you've got someone that can pressure that guy and not let him get off, in today's college basketball, that's massive. Zep Jasper was a really good on-ball defender for us for a couple of years, but he didn't have the size and the physicality that you're seeing with Tahad. I don't know if you noticed that. Right. The rest of the team's outstanding defensively also, but I think the way that he defends and how he's meeting you at half court and the way that he positions his body to try to get you to his weak hands, very impressive to me. And I was trying to point that out to my son last night is just watch how hard he plays defensively. He may only have 7 points, but I'm going to leave out of this gym talking about the way that he defends. And, that's the beauty of a Bruce Pearl-led team. If you aren't willing to put that type of effort forward, you're not going to be out there long.
No, you got to play defense for Coach Pearl for sure. That is, again, the staple that doesn't get talked about a lot is how well Auburn plays defense. And that's going to win them a lot of games on the road in this league. It's going to win them some games in the tournament. Again, and the reason I say that is their defense was good last year, but we lacked offensive production at times. I'm not concerned about that from what I've seen the first 4 ball games this year. And I think it's going to continue on. And now, look, you're on to another test. You're on to a bigger test. You got Iowa State, who's ranked right behind you. And it's going to be an unbelievable matchup. I think Auburn has the best win in the country right now with the win over Houston. They'll have a chance to get the second best win in the country if they're able to open up the Maui Invitational with a win over Iowa State. Then you'll have Dayton or North Carolina in the second round. Depending on how it goes. So, again, I'll give credit to UNA last night, and we got some comments coming in. We'll get to those. I'll give credit to UNA last night. I thought they came in and played extremely well. They weren't intimidated. They looked well-oiled in the first half offensively. They had a phenomenal guard in Lane that made play after play after play. I'd love to have him on our team. Yeah. After I was already thinking, how are we going to get him away from UNA? We've already robbed some other teams in state of some good players. So why not go after him? But anyway, Justice said that was a decent UNA team. When UNA took the lead, I love how Auburn didn't get affected by it. They just kept it business as usual. Auburn took a 20-point lead before you knew it. Yeah, you don't get panicked. I mean, basketball, your team's going to get on streaks. You may not have some shots falling in that particular part of the game, but if you're a very confident, balanced, deep team like Auburn, I mean, okay, you took a 2 or 3 point lead on us, no big deal. We'll just keep doing our thing, and at the end, it's gonna play out, and it played out to the fact that Auburn put 102 on the board last night.
Well, it's my first point this morning. Are we going to be smart enough to realize what our strength is? I think we're leading the nation in 2-point field goal percentage at 70% on the season. Do you get into a stretch where you're not shooting the ball well from the perimeter and say, that's all of that? man, I'm about to go inside. I'm about to get Chaney a little runner. I'm about to find a way to get Janai in the basketball game. And, that's what we did last night. We were smart enough to realize that we had the best player in the country on our team, and we went through it. When they tied that ball, I think they took a 1-point lead, 34-33, and then we end up scoring 50 there in the first half, and a lot of those points were Janai closing that first half out. So I thought that was really smart of us to decide to change what we were doing, keep our eyes on 4 down low and try to work through him, because even when we're playing a really good team that has a matchup good for him, if we get the basketball, he's proven over the years he can pass out of a double team. And we've got the guys that can finish around the rim passing out of the double team. And I really like the way that we go big to start games, Brett. I love Dylan Cardwell and Jen. I don't know about you. I'll kick it to you, but I like seeing those big guys in the game together. I think Dylan takes a lot of pressure off Janai defensively, and it keeps him, really fresh for the offensive end of the court, because there's one thing you don't have to worry about Dylan. He's going to bring intensity no matter what's going on. And so I like the two of them starting. I hope we continue that throughout the year.
I said that a year ago. I thought we did it a few times last year, caused teams matchup problems when you had both of them on the floor. You only saw it a couple of times really last year in conference play, but I like that lineup. I like, it does affect the way teams have to guard Auburn, and it really creates mismatches for most teams because you don't see two big guys on the floor much anymore in the roles that those two guys are playing. So, I know Auburn and Bruce Pearl have caught their share of criticism for small guards and things like that. I had somebody talking to me yesterday. They said, man, and a fan of another team. And they said, man, the thing that stands out to me about Auburn is they're so daggum long everywhere. Yeah. Everything is, when you have length in all positions and athleticism like that, the floor looks very small. And I remember I've been to several NBA games, and I remember the first time I ever went to an NBA game, and I sat close to the floor, and just the sheer size of those guys playing on a 94-foot floor. And I thought, man, how do you even get the ball? I mean, it's just so much. It looks so crowded and so jumbled up, and the way they're able to move and navigate. And that's what it looks like with an Auburn team out on the floor. It doesn't matter who you put out there. You just take up space, and you make it hard for teams to pass the basketball, and you clog lanes. And that's why they create so many turnovers, is because of their wingspan. And teams have to be extremely sharp with their passing. And if they're off just a little bit, it usually ends up in a turnover. So I love the length and the size. It really speeds teams up sometimes to force issues. And that's to Auburn's benefit.
Yeah, and Pettiford up top. I would love, I'm not an NBA scout, but I'd love to look at what NBA scouts think about him, Brett, because the thing that does stand out to me so far on his seasons, his defensive presence, his physicality, his length, his strength. I know he's coming from an area where they coach him up as well as anybody in the country in New Jersey. High school basketball is king in that part of the country, and they got some of the best coaches, and it's showing. To me, he looks like an elder statesman. The way that he carries himself out there, the way that he leads. I don't want to make too much of it, but my eyes go to him a lot. And he has games where he only had 7 like last night, but my eyes still go to him. And I think I really understand why NBA scouts are taking a look at him, because I think he's he reminds me of him, maybe a little bit better version of him defensively, but Sexton that was at Alabama a few years ago.
Oh, yeah, Colin Sexton. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just a good physical looking, point guard that can do a lot of things, can score the basketball, but has that nice physical build. So we're lucky to have him.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely so. And Justin comes back and says football has affected my psyche, Brett. Yeah, I get it. It's affected all of us. I think we've all been need some mental health after what we've been through the last 4 or 5 years with Auburn football, which that's a good segue. again, finishing up our talk on basketball, Auburn will move forward, and they will take on Iowa State on Monday. So a little bit of an extended break here for Auburn as they travel out to Hawaii, kind of get acclimated, practice, and get ready to play in one of the best tournaments in college basketball. And it's always an honor. And this is the second time Auburn has been in the Maui Invitational in the last, what was it? We were in there 5 years ago, maybe. So just a tremendous honor, and you don't take it for granted. And looking forward to seeing how Auburn competes out there against some of the best teams in the country. Just a great opportunity. All right, let's move on to Auburn football. Texas A&M coming in to Auburn at 6:30 on Saturday. Again, we'll continue to talk about this a little bit at a time throughout the rest of the week. But I want to go back. One of the comments that, or one of the questions that Hugh Freeze was asked yesterday in the press conference was about Ian. Is it Vacan? Is that how you pronounce his last name?
Works for me.
Okay. All right. Ian Vacan, let me tell you something. I thought coming in, and the story's even better. He was at Birmingham Southern. You know, they did away with the college. And so he walks on at Auburn. And, you know, you just never know, Randy. This is, again, you never know when your number is going to get called. You know, you're sitting down there, third string, fourth string guys sometimes. I mean, look at Stetson Bennett at Georgia. I mean, he was told multiple times they tried to run him away. They said, man, this kid just keeps hanging around. He is a glutton for punishment. What is he doing? And Stetson Bennett just refused to go away, and he ended up winning a couple of national championships for Georgia, and will go down in Georgia history. Ian Vacan, just look at what he did. The story, third guy off the bench kicking. You know, you got McPherson with an illness. You have Towns Magoo that's got the yips right now. So they give him a shot. And he comes out, he's 2 for 2. And I thought Hugh Freeze said a bit. He said, we're not taking the ball out of his hands. He's going to go out there and he's going to kick for us Saturday because he's earned the right. But key moments in the Oklahoma game, key moments in the Arkansas game where we miss field goals, Randy, and we know it's only 3 points, but it changes the flow of the game and what you force the other team to do. And we miss field goals in crucial times that if we didn't, we may have won those football games. So I thought he struck the ball well. Look, take out the opponent. His kicks look really good. He has a lot of confidence. So I'm proud for the young man.
Well, I thought Hugh Freeze handled it extremely well in the press conference yesterday. He was talking about, you know, how talented Towns is.
Right,
and
right.
Look at the way, you know, that you don't get leg strength like Towns Magoo too often. I mean, as an 18, 19-year-old kid to come in there and continuously knock that football out of the back of the end zone tells you what type of leg strength. And when he gets the yips gone, and it'll happen, and he'll have a great career there at Auburn. So I thought that what he said was good for that young man.
Right.
But kickers are a different beast. You know, you and I have been covering high school football, which is a step down, but it's the same. And over the years, I can almost watch someone as they get out on the field, and you can tell it's kind of like a golf swing, Brett. Someone that's confident when they've got a pitching wedge in their hand. You're like, I don't know if this one's going to be within 5 feet, but I do know he's about to strike this thing well.
Right.
And he's got a lot of confidence stepping over the ball. Kickers are that way. And, you know, we have just had the good fortune at Auburn where we haven't had to talk about this. You know, I go back to the 80s and remembering Win Lyle and others. And, man, when we got into situations where you had to make a kick, Auburn just made them. They've always made them. And
well, we're field goal you for a reason.
Well, and so
we laugh about it sometimes. But.
And it's not just the Carlsons. You know, they did get a lot of praise, and they deserved all the praise that they've gotten, and they've proven it in the NFL also. But, you know, it's way before them, Brett, that we put great kickers. Yeah, we can keep going. We can go down the list.
Yep.
Duvall, I can run down the list of all the great kickers we've had. And
West Byram. I mean, look, we laugh at it at Auburn because a lot of times we have to rely on field goals way more than we want to, but we've taken it for granted because, you know, you look across the state and, yeah, Alabama's had tremendous success and they've been dominating, but the one thing they couldn't ever get right until here recently has been field goal kicking. and it was like a thorn in their rear end. And in the rare occasion they had a close game, it ended up biting them. And, something that we have taken for granted around here, once you don't have it any longer, man, it really magnifies the issue. So we have been comfortable at Auburn with just outstanding special teams play. And it's been a little shaky. Again, Alex McPherson wants to play worse than anybody. And I feel for that kid, man. He was coming in off of a phenomenal season last year where he made 19 field goals. I mean, he didn't miss a single field goal last year. And just a tremendous, tremendous player. And, now he can't play because of this condition. And he played in one game, but he's still not back. And, man, I've never seen a kid that looked that small. So our thoughts and prayers, let's say that, continue to go out to him as he continues to try to get back to a situation where he can play. But you're right. I thought Hugh Freeze, the comments about Towns Magoo were very warranted. He's a freshman, okay? We forget about that sometimes. We just expect these talented kids to just come in and be a 10-year veteran. And, man, it's a 33-yard field goal. I mean, good Lord. I mean, I can't believe he missed that. And then we get so caught up about that we forget that he's a young kid and he's trying to make his way too. So he'll be fine. But look, kudos to Ian Vacon. You never know. Again, that's the point. You never know when your number's going to be called. You never know when your opportunity to shine is going to come. You better be ready for it because it may be your only chance. So a couple more points out of the press conference yesterday. He was asked immediately about Cam Coleman, and he was right. He said, look, I can call the plays, but I can't dictate the coverages. And, again, coverages absolutely have a big part in how you get guys the football and who is open and who's not. So, they have to kind of see what defenses are going to be run out there by the opposing team and what coverages, and that will dictate what happens. But I think the message was sent, though. We've got to target him more, period, no matter what the other defense kind of lines up in.
Well, I hear him, but the great receivers in the NFL and the great receivers that he had at Ole Miss, they didn't leave football games with only one or two targets.
Right.
So he can say what he wants. He can say the RPO's set up perfectly for him. He can say the routes. He just happened to be the one in the route. Well, there's a certain point where you go, that guy right there, he's a pro. We can all see it. 50-50 balls become 70-30 balls with him, and we've got to give him more opportunities for that. And so I do sense that that's being communicated. And you saw the athleticism that you and I have had the good fortune to see in the last couple of years in high school football here in the state of Alabama, where he was one of the top athletes along with Ryan Williams in the state that I saw. And he's got pieces around him where not all the eyes have to go to him. I'd love to see Malcolm touch the ball more. Look, I know I'm biased when I say that, but when Malcolm touches the ball in the middle of the field and they miss a tackle, it is a touchdown. You can just go ahead and write it up. I mean, right. He's taking it to the house. And so, not all eyes can go to Cam Coleman. And we've had, eras in Auburn football where we really only had one guy. And, I think of Ronnie Daniels and some others where if you doubled them up, we really struggled finding somebody else that was strong enough to get open. That's not the case by no stretch. KLS is the best receiver we have right now.
Absolutely.
I love Cam Coleman, but KLS is the best of the three, and I'm putting Malcolm in those three. And Perry Thompson looks as good as advertised. Now, is he playing as good as advertised? No. But off the hoof, my friend, he looks the part out there on the field. You got to take someone with that type of size and athleticism, you got to find a role for him. I don't care if it's in the middle of the field, playing a little bit more of that tight end type role. But Perry Thompson's got to find his way also. And he's one of them that I'm really worried about. If I'm not as worried about Coleman, we see him talking in the camera quite often.
No, he looks happy. Anywhere. He's not going anywhere.
I don't think he's going anywhere, but I'd love to see Perry back again next year too.
And maybe he will. Maybe he will. I mean, again, the answer and the solution to not playing isn't pick your ball up and run to another team necessarily all the time, and the thing that you have to look at is we don't know what goes on at practice every day, and we don't know where he is in the learning process and all that kind of stuff. All we get a chance to see is what we see on Saturday, and it does kind of frustrate us as fans and media to not maybe see as much of him as we thought we would by this time. But again, working and progressing, that's part of it. And in this world we live in now, that's kind of been pushed to the side. It's like I need to be immediate part of what's going on, or I'm getting the heck out of here. That kind of goes into that narrative of us and expectations as fans with a kicker. Well, why? Okay, he's playing. He needs to make every field goal within 40 yards. It ought to be automatic. When we get impatient when he doesn't. So it goes both ways. And so I think Perry Thompson, I would think the nucleus of this team and the teammates and the way they play and the way they feed off of each other will, be a bigger part of determining who stays and who goes. And then the recruiting class coming in, they're all close to these guys too. So that they know what's coming. And, and again, if you're not playing at Auburn, that doesn't mean that you're going to go over to Florida next year and be the starter and start tearing it up. I mean, we know that problems travel. And I'm not saying Perry Thompson has issues, but I'm saying that take any kid, for example. If you're not playing over here, there's probably a reason. And so you go take your talents to another team, you're probably going to go through the same situation. I can name players that have transferred to multiple schools because they thought, oh, well, it's the school, it's not me. And then they go travel and they go transfer to another one and transfer to another one. And it's like, hey, how about look in the mirror? Maybe it's something you're doing that's not translating to you getting more playing time. I'm not saying that's what's going on with Perry. I'm just using that as a hypothetical example. So my whole point in saying is I really think from what you and I have been told through a few channels is that most of this team, majority of this team loves the culture and where they are and they'll be back. And I hope so. We got 2 more football games to play, and then you got an off season. So they've got to recruit their team. That's just part of it. Justice said, I like Hugh saying yesterday that instead of trying to outthink the defense with the offensive game plan, Auburn's going to go, they're just going to focus more on what they do well and just try to beat the other team. And, I hate to use it on an Auburn show, but isn't that what Nick Saban says all the time? He said, it's not about the opponent. It's about us. We got to do the things that make us the best possible version of ourselves to give ourselves a chance to win. And I know that's probably easier said than done, but it really is that simple.
Well, it is easier, and I'm sitting on this side of the mic, not calling the plays, but it is the frustrating thing also watching Auburn play football over the last decade plus is you see some pieces that you'd like to give more opportunities to because when they do get the chance, they really perform well. Jarquez Hunter's been the biggest question mark this year. His touches have been nowhere near the level that I think a lot of Auburn fans would like to see. And Cam Coleman's, of course, has not been anywhere near where Auburn fans would like to see. And Hugh Freeze answered both of those questions for us yesterday, that his offense doesn't set up. Depending on how the defense sets up is what his offense does. Well, I hear that, and I'm going to say it again. If that were the case, then we would watch NFL games where the best receiver only touched the ball 1 or 2 times. How long do you think that coach would hold on to his job if the best players in the country only touched the ball 1 or 2 times? Would the answer be not very long at all?
Yeah.
Or if Derrick Henry only
that's what NFL stood for, right? Not for long.
I mean, if Derrick Henry only rushed the football 10 or 12 times a game, do you think their head coach would hold on to his job very long? No,
not at all.
I hear him, but I also am very happy that we've got some players that we feel deserve more touches than they're getting. We've had times where we didn't have that type of talent. We're starting to get it, and he's the key reason why we're getting it. So I'm giving Hugh Freeze the benefit of the doubt. But as we get some of these guys in here that are hopefully going to change the overall dynamic of Auburn football, you can't leave football games where Cam Coleman touches the ball or was
targeted only 2 times.
Maybe 1 or 2 times. Brett, let me jump in real quick. I know that we've got a couple more minutes here left, but I do want to pass this along to everyone that tunes in out there. We've got a remote coming up in the middle of December with one of our new sponsors over in Auburn. I took my wife by last night and just pointed out to Bunkers. She didn't know where it was, but Bunkers is in downtown on West Glen. Beautiful facility that we're really looking forward to partnering with on our Auburn Blitz programming. We'll be out in the middle of December. If you've got certain guests, Auburn guests that I'd love to see the women's basketball team on with us. I think that they're one of them that we're going to talk a lot more about in the years to come, Brett. I just have this sense that where Bruce Pearl has this men's team, the women's team's about to get there. And I want to be right there on the front of that. I know you got a relationship there. And so hopefully we can take advantage of that. But Bunkers is a beautiful facility. If you haven't been, we'd love for you to come out when we do that. And we got opportunities for us on Friday afternoons moving forward that we'll come out to your location, our sponsors, and we're going to plan on doing our 12 to 1 shows on location moving forward. So reach out to us if you would like to see us at your location. Please let us know. 256 825-0197 is our phone number down here in Dadeville. And as I always close out the program, Lee Apparel and Sign Source here in Dadeville, from screen printing and embroidered corporate apparel to all the signage needs that you could possibly want, we can handle those here in Dadeville.
Yeah, one of the things that I like the most about the people that we partner with, I don't call them advertisers, I call them partners, because they partner. I mean, they make us as good as we hopefully make them with the products that we put out there. But like Pepper Tree Steaks and Wine, I mean, knowing Kathy Holmes now, she's awesome. I mean, she's just a great person, and never would have met her, never would have built the relationship we have with her and her crew, with Kim and all of the people down there, if we don't have this business. And again, Bunkers, Alan Brewer, think the world of Alan, and he's got a great business. We're excited about being that. Wade Bennett, Sensa Green. I mean, I can keep going down the list. All of the people that we're partnered with, Michael Ponder, Frontline Outfitters in Alex City. I mean, I can go through all of our customers and all the people that are partners with us, and we have a personal relationship with them, and that means something. It's not just, hey, it's not transactional. We want to help them grow, and they want to help us grow too, and so it really comes out. Want to finish up? Auburn is a 2.5-point underdog to Texas A&M. Vegas usually kind of has a feel about what's going on. So, just your thoughts real quick on the 2.5-point spread. And then I've got some comments that want to get to. Let me get to those first, and I'll get your take, Randy. Jerron said, if we keep the ball in 27's hands, we have a chance. And Glenn said, from listening to you guys versus what is done on the field, then you get to the coach's press conference and you hear something totally different. We've been dealing with that for a long time around here at Auburn. Tell you something, and then on Saturday you see something completely different. It's almost like remember in school you take a test, and the teacher said, "Now I want you to study chapters 5 through 7, and the test is going to be on 5 through 7 and everything in those chapters." And you get on the test and you're like, I didn't see any of this in 5 through 7. Did I read the wrong chapters? And it's like, no, that it's been, and again, it goes back to that. You're told something and then you see something totally different. So multiple things there. Give your take on.
Well, I'll start with Jerron. He makes a very good point. My problem with Jarquez's lack of touches is I think he gets stronger as the game goes on. He always feels like that to me, and some backs aren't that way. But you watch that Kentucky game, Brett.
Right.
The second half hit, and we started leaning on him a bit, and he got more and more touches as the game moved on, and he started breaking some. And you don't do that until you kind of expose their will. And I think he's that type of back. If he keeps pounding on you, at some point he's going to break one out and he's going to go 30 or 40 yards. We haven't given him that many opportunities this year. I think we lost the chance to have a 15 to 1,600 yard rusher this year with just lack of opportunities. And if he added a good 500 to 600 more yards of rushing, I know he's over 1,000. I'm about to have our hot topics. We hope y'all are finding us, TikTok, all of our other social media outlets that we're starting to work. But my point today is, where does Jarquez sit on that Auburn all-time rushing list, or where would you place him? He's jumping up there, Brett. You look at his numbers, man, and
Massive.
they're in the top 5 all time at Auburn. I don't think that we talk about him that way. And the problems, I don't think we gave him a chance to have a Trey Mason year this year when he could have. I really feel like he could have had a Trey Mason year if we'd have leaned on him a little more.
Yeah, he's got 1,015 yards on 146 carries and 5 touchdowns.
If he had 1,400 or 1,500 right now, how many wins would we have?
I think at least 2 more, and maybe 3. And I've got another. I'm gonna throw this out there at you. 146, 156, a 245, 2,111 yards, 18 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. Would you have thought Auburn's record would be what it would be if I told you going into the last 2 games, Peyton Thorne had already thrown for over 2,000 yards, and he was 2-to-1 TDs to interceptions, and his efficiency was as high as it was. I mean, it doesn't make sense this year. Let's just be honest about it. I mean, we get caught in the abyss of talking about Auburn and our football team's bad. It's not bad. The football team is not bad. The roster's not bad. The defense is top 15 in the country. The offensive numbers, you got a 1,000-yard rusher that could easily have 1,500 yards probably. You got a boatload of great receivers. A lot of them are young, but they're unbelievable. And you got a quarterback that's already thrown for over 2,000 yards and 18 touchdowns. I mean, it just doesn't make sense, because the outlier are the turnovers and the inability to finish drives in the red zone, Randy, to get points on the scoreboard. The offensive numbers, other than that, are there to have a successful season.
I'll go back to what Hugh Freeze said yesterday. Sometimes I think we overthink everything. I really do. And you get in the red zone, I don't care if you're in youth football to high school football to college and then to the pros. That field closes in on you. You either give up a 50-50 ball where you try to go let your best athlete make a play, or you run the football at them. And too often, we have not run the football at them with the best back in the SEC.
Right.
It's the head scratcher this year. I know he's got over 1,000, but I think that if he had the amount, what's his yard per rush? Do you have that in front of you?
Hold on, I can
6,
pull it up.
I think it's a crazy good number. I think
it's 6.5. I think.
I mean, if 6.5 yards a rush and we haven't given him the ball,
I'm sorry, it's 7 yards a carry.
It's a joke.
It's 7 yards a carry.
That's the biggest problem with Auburn football this year is we didn't lean on.
You got a guy that's giving you 7 yards on average a carry, and you're like, well, man, after that first 15-yarder he had, we just didn't really like the way it was going after that. I mean, that was the comment that was made after the Vanderbilt game, because what did he end up with?
He had 2 carries in the second half, and Hugh Freeze in the post-game press conference said he looked gassed over there.
Well, he had 50 yards, and 15 came on the first play of the game.
Yeah.
So you telling me he only rushed for 35 more yards after that, after he came off of a 278-yard performance the week before on the road against Kentucky? You're right. It's just how can we screw this up? It's like more effort, like the Oklahoma game. You had to come up with ways to say, all right, we ain't screwed it up like this yet. Y'all ready for this one? Let's try this, because we're up 21-10. We're going to baffle everybody about how we're about to blow this one. We're going to take everybody out. So here's some more comments, and there's some good ones coming in, so it's hard to get off. Justice said, is KLS going to get to 1,000 yards? And the answer to that is probably no, because he's got 761 yards receiving, so he'd need 150 in the next 2 games each. Probably a little bit more. Probably ain't gonna happen. Now he could go for 200 in one game and 100 another and get there, but he's gonna be another one of those long list of receivers that falls just short of getting to that 1,000-yard receiving mark, which is again head scratching.
Last one we had is 99, Ronnie Daniels. In today's football, that's the
wildest. We've had a boatload of guys that fell just short.
Yeah.
Like in the 900-yard, it's stupid. We just can't. I mean, it's amazing.
But let me go back to my previous comment.
Yeah.
I'd much rather see him not get to his 1,000 and Jarquez average 150 yards rushing these last two games.
I agree with
he
that.
Can. If he averages 150 yards rushing in these last two games, we're going to win them. I believe we can win them if we'll lean on him. If he gets 20-plus carries a game, I don't think Alabama's a world beater. They haven't proven to be.
They're just playing.
They are playing
right
better, and I think they may
right
win the national championship. I will concede that. But we're not going over there and playing some team that's blown everybody's doors off. They haven't. And Texas A&M not a world beater. They're not by no stretch of the imagination.
No, I'm not worried about that.
Parity in college football is very, very good right now. And but I'm leaning on our best football player these last couple of games. We hear it, but then for whatever reason we don't do it.
Well, let's go show it. Let's go show it. All right, a couple more comments and we'll get out. Jerron said Freeze will definitely outsmart himself to give a game away. We don't have a bad team. Again, it goes back to what we just said. We don't have a bad football team. I think if you look down and you say to maybe half or three-quarters of the teams in the SEC, they would go, yeah, I take him. I take him. I definitely take him. I'm good with having him on my team. You know, in the past when we've had bad teams, you look over and go, would anybody take any of those guys and replace them for what they have? And most of the time you go, no. There's a boat.
I used to bring that up to you all the time about Nick Saban in Alabama. I'd say, Brett, who would you trade? If you were Nick Saban, who would you trade from Auburn to come and play on your team? And your answer would be maybe one or two players a year. Maybe one or two a year. And that was always my point to you, that this is the issue. We don't have guys that match, but I don't see it. I know some of them are young, but I'll take that youth too, with explosiveness that we've seen. So I agree with both of you. I think we deserve better than what we're getting coaching right now, on the field coaching, not recruiting, but on the field coaching from an offensive standpoint, left a lot to be desired this year.
Well, maybe we'll see a little bit better team Saturday. Need a win. Need a big win at home to take some momentum into the Iron Bowl and have something to play for. You actually still have a chance to go to a bowl game if you win these next two games. All right. What was the goal line play we gave to Turner earlier in the year on the fourth down? Just hand it to Jarquez. Again, overthinking. Why do we do stuff like that? Was that the Oklahoma game? I believe it was, when we got down there and went forward on fourth down. And
I'm getting old.
I think it's Oklahoma.
If you'd asked me in '87 what happened in an Iron Bowl game, I could have told you every play. But
I can still remember those plays, and then I can't remember what I did 30 minutes ago or where I put something.
That's the point I'm trying to make. I can remember all those '80s games, but if you ask me what happened 3 games ago, I have no idea.
Remember exactly where I was sitting, what I was doing, probably what shirt I had on, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, somebody asked me something that happened yesterday, and I'm like, what did I do yesterday? All right, Glenn said that is one kid that never taps his helmet, and that's Jarquez Hunter. He don't come out, man. He'd run till he literally just collapsed on the field. So we're not going to have him much longer. Only 2 games for sure, maybe 3 if you make it to a bowl game. So let's let the guy eat a little bit here in the last 2 football games.
And appreciate him. You know, Again, I'm about to talk about that on my little rant on my hot topic of the day. Where does he fit in? Love to hear from y'all. Y'all help me. Where does he fit in the overall rundown of best backs at Auburn? And it doesn't necessarily have, because Trey Mason's one of my favorites. His numbers aren't going to be up there, but that one season was enough for me to throw him probably in my top 3, because, you know,
he got invited to the Heisman ceremony.
Well, the only problem with Trey Mason's he was too good that year. He scored too quick against Florida State.
Man, all right. I'll take that into my puke column over here for Auburn. So, only us. We scored too soon to lose the national championship. All right. Everybody have a great day. Auburn Blitz coming up at noon. It will be Andy and Jim again today. Randy and I will be in our 822nd meeting that we have, it seems like, on a weekly basis. So, but it's a good thing. Excited to be at that. But you have Jim and Andy again today, and then Randy and I will be on Thursday. as we move along. So everybody have a great rest of your day. War Eagle, everybody.